Right, you really threw us a curveball with this one. Gandhi's autobiography, My Experiments with Truth, it's a classic, but it's quite the undertaking.
It's a big one.
But don't worry, we've got you covered. We're going deep, chapter by chapter, pulling out the wisdom, the not-so-great moments, and everything in between.
You know, it's fascinating. What makes Gandhi's autobiography so compelling is how brutally honest he is. He lays bare his flaws. He doesn't shy away from his mistakes.
Right.
And it makes his evolution and eventual accomplishments even more inspiring. So we'll explore both the admirable and the, well, not so admirable, to understand the man behind the legend.
Exactly. It's about getting a real sense of the man, not just the icon.
Right.
So, chapter 1, a childhood. Where do we even begin?
Well, even in his early years, you see glimpses of the man he would become.
Okay.
Gandhi recounts refusing to cheat on a spelling test even though it meant punishment.
Wow.
He valued truth above all else, even as a child.
Talk about integrity.
Yeah.
But then he also tells this crazy story about trying to commit suicide with a friend by eating datura seeds.
Yeah.
They thought it was the only way to escape British rule.
That's a powerful example of his youthful idealism and his willingness to go to extremes for his beliefs.
Wow.
Of course, suicide is never the answer, and it's something he later condemned. But it reveals the intensity of his emotions and his early struggle against oppression.
Okay, moving on to chapter 2. A family trait. Gandhi paints this complex picture of his father.
Yeah.
He admired his father's strength and determination, but also acknowledged his flaws.
Right. His father had a temper, could be manipulative. Traits Gandhi consciously rejected.
Yeah.
He recognized the negative aspects of his father's character and chose a different path, which speaks volumes about his self-awareness, I think.
Yeah, he even mentions his father possibly having a child out of wedlock. Not exactly role model material.
Yeah. It's a reminder that even those we admire have flaws, you know? The key is to learn from their mistakes and strive to be better. And I think Gandhi's ability to recognize and reject his father's negative traits, it's something we can all learn from.
Absolutely. Now, chapter 3, child marriage. Gandhi was married at 13? That's just, wow.
Oh, yeah.
It was common practice at the time, but still.
Yeah, it was. And he openly expresses regret about this experience and later campaigned against child marriage. He saw it as a harmful tradition that robbed children of their childhood and freedom of choice.
He admits to feeling lust and wanting to control his wife.
Yeah.
Not his finest hour.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable to read, but it's important to remember, I think, that he's not trying to hide these aspects of himself, right?
Yeah.
He's confronting them head on. And this honesty and willingness to acknowledge his past mistakes, well, that's what makes his journey so compelling.
Okay, on to chapter 4, playing the husband. Gandhi continues to grapple with his role as a husband.
He describes being controlling and even resorting to physical force, which paints a very different picture from the Mahatma we know.
It's a stark reminder that personal growth is a journey.
Yeah.
Even Gandhi, who became a symbol of peace and nonviolence, struggled with anger and the desire for control in his youth.
His willingness to acknowledge these mistakes, however, is admirable. It underscores the idea that we are all capable of change and growth.
Chapter 5, stolen fruit. This one's about his experiments with, well, let's just say not so noble pursuits.
Yeah. Gandhi admits to stealing, smoking, even visiting a brothel. He talks about the intense guilt and remorse he felt afterward. It's a reminder that everyone makes mistakes, even those who achieve greatness.
It's pretty shocking to read.
It is.
But ultimately, it's his honesty that shines through.
Yeah.
He's not trying to portray himself as perfect.
Exactly. He uses these experiences as a springboard for personal growth, learning from his mistakes, and striving to live a more ethical life. This commitment to self-improvement is something we can all aspire to.
Okay, on to chapter 6, a tragedy. This is where things get really interesting with the whole meat-eating saga. He was convinced it would make him strong like the English.
This chapter reveals how deeply ingrained colonial ideology was at the time. Gandhi, like many others, believed that meat-eating equated to physical strength and dominance.
Right.
A belief he later challenged and rejected.
He even goes as far as sneaking around, hiding his meat-eating from his vegetarian family. Can you believe it? The Mahatma sneaking around like a teenager.
It's a stark reminder that even the most influential figures are products of their time. Gandhi's journey towards vegetarianism was a gradual one,
Okay.
shaped by his experiences and his growing understanding of ethics and compassion.
It's a powerful message about challenging our assumptions and recognizing the influence of societal norms on our beliefs.
Yeah.
What seems obvious to us now wasn't so clear-cut back then.
It wasn't. Welcome back. So we left off with young Gandhi grappling with his choices. And, the influence of colonialism. As we move forward, we really see how these early experiences shaped the man he became.
Right. Chapter 7 picks up with a tragedy, and things get pretty heavy. The guilt of deceiving his parents about eating meat, really starts to weigh on him.
It's interesting how this internal conflict, becomes a catalyst for change.
Huh.
He recognizes the negative impact his actions have on his friend who's helping him hide the meat eating and eventually gives it up altogether.
Wow.
He realizes it just doesn't align with his values.
And it's not just about the meat, right?
Yeah.
He also begins to question his relationship with his wife, recognizing his controlling behavior. You can see the seeds of his philosophy of nonviolence kind of taking root even in his personal relationships.
Absolutely. It's a period of deep introspection for Gandhi. He's starting to examine his own actions, his motivations, and ultimately striving for something better.
Chapter 8, Brahmacharya. Here's where Gandhi explores the concept of celibacy. Now, this one might raise some eyebrows.
It might. It's important to understand that Gandhi isn't advocating celibacy for everyone, right? He's sharing his personal journey.
Yeah.
He saw it as a way to purify himself, to control his desires and focus his energy on higher pursuits.
Right. It wasn't just about physical restraint. He also talks about controlling thoughts and emotions. That's some serious discipline.
It was a holistic approach, a commitment to spiritual growth and detachment from worldly desires. It's a complex concept, and it certainly isn't for everyone, but it did play a significant role in his personal and spiritual development.
Okay. Then we move on to Chapter 9, Simple Life. And here, Gandhi really gets down to the nitty-gritty of simplifying his lifestyle.
Yeah, he talks about reducing his expenses, giving up luxuries, even learning to wash his own clothes.
Wow.
This was about self-sufficiency, rejecting materialism, and living a life aligned with his values.
He wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty. Literally.
Literally, yeah.
It's inspiring to see someone so dedicated to living their principles,
It was about practicing what he preached. He believed in the power of simple living, not just as a personal choice, but as a way to connect with the common man and challenge the excesses of society.
Okay, now Chapter 10, The First Case. This takes us into Gandhi's early experiences as a lawyer.
Yeah, he describes his first case in Bombay, a fairly minor dispute. But even then, his focus was on finding a fair solution rather than simply winning. He went above and beyond to help reconcile the parties involved.
That's so different from the cutthroat legal battles we often see.
Yeah.
It really highlights his commitment to mediation and conflict resolution.
Yeah, this early experience foreshadows his later work with satyagraha, a philosophy of nonviolent resistance. Even as a lawyer, he sought solutions that benefited everyone involved, rather than, just one side winning at the expense of the other.
Chapter 11, Preparation for England. This is where things take a turn. Gandhi decides to study law in England, a bold move for an Indian at the time.
Yeah, it wasn't easy for him. He faced opposition from his family, his community, but he saw it as an opportunity to gain knowledge and experience that would benefit him in his fight for justice.
And let's not forget the culture shock. He talks about his initial struggles with adapting to English customs, the food, even the weather. Must have been quite the adjustment.
It was a period of significant personal growth. He had to learn to navigate a new culture while holding on to his own identity. This experience broadened his perspective and helped him develop a deeper understanding of different ways of life.
Now, Chapter 12, Outcast. This one hits hard. It's where Gandhi recounts his experiences with racial discrimination while traveling to South Africa.
Yeah, he describes being denied entry to a first-class train compartment, despite having a valid ticket simply because of his race. And this experience, it was a turning point for him, a stark awakening to the realities of racial prejudice.
It's heartbreaking to read about the casual cruelty he encountered. It makes you realize how deeply ingrained these prejudices were.
He could have chosen to ignore it, to focus on his legal work, avoid confrontation. But this experience ignited a fire in him. It fueled his determination to fight for equality and challenge the systemic racism he encountered.
It's a powerful reminder that sometimes personal experiences can have a profound impact on our worldview and inspire us to take action.
Absolutely. This chapter marks a shift in Gandhi's journey. From here on, his focus expands from personal growth to actively fighting for social justice.
So, Chapter 13, Some Experiences of Black Men. kind of dives deeper into those encounters with discrimination. It's not pretty.
No, it's not. He describes witnessing the horrific treatment of Black Africans, the beatings, the insults, the complete disregard for their humanity. It was a stark contrast to the, relative tolerance he had experienced in India.
And it wasn't just coming from white Europeans. He talks about seeing Indians mistreating Black Africans as well.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that prejudice can exist within any community.
It's a sobering reminder that injustice often operates on multiple levels. Dismantling it requires addressing not just external forces, but also internalized biases, within ourselves and our communities.
In Chapter 14, Preparation for the Case, Gandhi throws himself into his legal work.
Yeah, he meticulously prepares for the case that brought him to South Africa, showcasing his dedication and thoroughness. But his experiences with racism continue to shape his worldview. He realizes that the law, while important, can't always solve the deeper societal issues.
It's a tension that many activists face, right?
Right.
The law can be a tool for change, but sometimes you need to go beyond the legal framework to challenge deeply ingrained systems of oppression.
It's about recognizing the limitations of existing systems and finding creative ways to push for change.
Chapter 15, What It Is to Be a Coolie. It's a dehumanizing term. Makes me cringe just saying it.
I know. Gandhi recounts being labeled a coolie upon arriving in Pretoria. This derogatory term was used to denigrate Indian laborers, and he refused to accept it, challenging anyone who tried to diminish his worth.
It shows his growing awareness of the power of language,
Yeah.
Words can be used to dehumanize and marginalize entire groups of people.
He understood that fighting for equality meant challenging not just laws and policies, but also the language and attitudes that perpetuate prejudice. He recognized the importance of reclaiming language and demanding respect.
Chapter 16, The Case of Umbula, introduces one of Gandhi's early legal triumphs. He works tirelessly to secure the release of an indentured laborer who had been unjustly imprisoned.
It highlights not only his legal skills, but also his compassion and willingness to fight for the underdog. He didn't just win the case, he went above and beyond, helping Umbula return home to his family.
It's a great example of his holistic approach to justice.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't just about legal victories, but about restoring dignity and providing practical support to those who had been wronged.
It shows how he saw his work as a lawyer as a way to serve a greater purpose, not just as a means to personal gain.
In Chapter 17, On the Way to Pretoria, we see another incident of blatant discrimination.
Right. Gandhi describes being forced to travel in a third-class train compartment despite having a first-class ticket. And he refused to move, enduring insults and even physical threats. This was his first act of satyagraha, nonviolent resistance to injustice.
It's incredible to see him standing up for his rights in such a peaceful yet powerful way. He could have given in, avoiding confrontation, but he chose to make a stand.
This act of defiance was a pivotal moment, marking the beginning of his lifelong commitment to satyagraha as a means of fighting for social change.
Chapter 18, Help from Strangers, shows the kindness that can emerge even in the face of adversity. After being thrown off the train, Gandhi finds himself stranded in the middle of the night.
And a compassionate station master offers him shelter and protection, demonstrating that even in a system rife with prejudice, individuals can choose compassion over hate.
It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there are always those who choose to do the right thing. It gives me hope.
Those acts of kindness, however small, can have a profound impact, offering hope and solidarity in the face of oppression.
Chapter 19, Religious Ferment, takes us on a bit of a detour into Gandhi's spiritual journey. He talks about reading the Bible and being struck by the teachings of Jesus, particularly the Sermon on the Mount.
He saw parallels between Christianity and his own Hindu beliefs, highlighting the universality of certain spiritual principles. It speaks to his open-mindedness and his willingness to learn from different traditions.
It's inspiring to see someone so deeply rooted in their own faith, yet open to finding wisdom in other religions. It's a valuable lesson in bridging divides and recognizing shared values.
He wasn't trying to convert anyone. He was seeking common ground, recognizing the unifying power of compassion and love that transcends religious boundaries.
In Chapter 20, Christian Friends, he details his interactions with compassionate Christians in Pretoria.
He found solace and support from these individuals who treated him with respect and challenged the prevailing prejudices within their own community. It highlights the importance of allyship, of people from different backgrounds standing together to fight injustice.
It's a reminder that we're not alone in this fight. There are always people willing to stand up for what's right, even if it means challenging their own communities.
Yeah, those acts of solidarity can be incredibly powerful, chipping away at the walls of prejudice and paving the way for meaningful change.
Okay, on to chapter 21, settled in Pretoria. Gandhi finally gets a bit of a breather, establishing his law practice and building a life for himself.
He describes his interactions with the Indian community and his efforts to advocate for their rights. But even in this period of relative stability, the seeds of activism have been sown. Welcome back. So we left off with Gandhi kind of finding his footing in Pretoria, but as you know, a quiet life wasn't really in the cards for him.
Right, in chapter 22, the beginning of my public life, things really start to ramp up. Gandhi attends a meeting about a proposed law that would severely restrict Indian rights in Transvaal. And this becomes a catalyst for his public activism.
Yeah, this is a crucial moment. He sees the potential for collective action and realizes he can't stay silent. He's moving beyond personal growth and kind of stepping into a leadership role.
So from lawyer to activist, quite a transition.
Yeah, and it wasn't a complete shift. He still utilized his legal expertise, but he also recognized the need to mobilize people and fight for systemic change.
And then in chapter 23, the genesis of the INC, we see the birth of the Natal Indian Congress. What a pivotal moment in the fight for Indian rights.
Yeah, Gandhi was instrumental in forming this organization, which aimed to unify Indians in Natal and advocate for their rights. It was a significant step towards building a powerful movement.
He didn't just lead from a distance, though. He was out there organizing petitions, fundraising, even doing manual labor to support the movement. Talk about leading by example.
It shows his commitment to, grassroots organizing and his belief in the power of collective action. He wasn't afraid to roll up his sleeves and work alongside those he was leading.
Chapter 24, the value of books, reminds us of Gandhi's lifelong love of learning.
Yeah, he talks about how books exposed him to new ideas and shaped his thinking. He was a voracious reader, constantly seeking knowledge and applying those lessons to his own life and his work.
It's a great reminder that learning is a lifelong journey. We should never stop exploring new ideas and challenging our own assumptions.
It's about cultivating intellectual curiosity and recognizing that growth comes from continuous learning and self-reflection.
Then in chapter 25, preparation for the voyage, Gandhi decides to return to India temporarily.
Yeah, he wanted to share his experiences in South Africa, raise awareness about the plight of Indians there, and garner support for the movement. He understood the importance of building alliances and influencing public opinion.
He was a brilliant communicator, wasn't he?
He was.
Writing pamphlets, giving speeches, effectively using the media to amplify his message.
He knew how to connect with people on an emotional level, to tell stories that resonated with his audience. He was a master of persuasion, and he used his skills to champion the cause of justice.
Chapter 26, Homeward Bound, recounts his journey back to India, a trip filled with mixed emotions.
He was excited to return home, but also apprehensive about the reception he would receive. He knew his activism had made him a controversial figure.
And that controversy would only grow in the years to come.
Absolutely. But even then, his commitment to truth and justice never wavered. He was willing to face criticism, even ostracism, for what he believed in.
Wow, we've covered so much ground. From Gandhi's childhood struggles to his early activism in South Africa, his journey is truly remarkable.
What's striking is how his experiences, both positive and negative, shaped his philosophy and his approach to social change. His early mistakes, his encounters with discrimination, his spiritual explorations, they all played a role in his evolution.
It's inspiring to see how he transformed his personal struggles into a force for good in the world.
Yeah, his story reminds us that personal growth is a continuous process. It's often messy, filled with setbacks, but it's through those challenges that we learn and evolve.
And ultimately, Gandhi's life demonstrates the power of individual action. He started as a lone voice, challenging injustice, but his courage, his commitment to truth, and his willingness to sacrifice inspired others to join him.
His legacy continues to inspire people around the world to fight for justice and equality.
So after this deep dive, the question for you is, what resonates with you most from Gandhi's journey? What lessons can you apply to your own life? Whether it's a commitment to lifelong learning, a willingness to challenge injustice, or simply the courage to live by your convictions.
It's a question worth pondering. Gandhi's life offers a wealth of insights for anyone seeking to make a positive impact on the world.